Travis Wayne Goodsell. As yesterday's breaking news from the church was that they're going to rewrite the historical narrative of church history for the visiting of Moroni and the giving of the gold plates to Joseph Smith. It sparked inspiration in me, of course, to again bring up my real church history information for you. And so I'm going to continue on that same thread. If you remember, 2020 was supposed to be a whole celebration that was planned by the church for the first vision. And coronavirus destroyed it. They were only able to do the Saturday evening session of General Conference, which is now canceled, which was the day before's breaking news, Thursday. And you guys don't understand how the prophets are stalking me. It's not just Mormon terrorists who I've exposed now as pedophiles. I'm waiting for you to comment. Where are you? Don't put thumbs down. Comment. Attack me. I dare you. And I'll expose you as a pedophile again and again and again. You blew it by projecting. Because the prophets are so obsessed with me because they know how dangerous I am to destroying their church. And Mormons don't see it. Mormons don't get it. You know, they aren't involved in my life. They're on the outside. They live their own lives. So here I am talking about the prophets stalking me, and prophets are obsessed with me, and they're concerned, and they come out with these things that are replies to me, and you guys don't catch on because you're not following my videos. You're not believing as Mormons. And even as ex-Mormons don't believe me. I don't conform to the status quo of the hate-mongering towards Mormons. My real church history of real research offends the popular ex-Mormons, too. And John Delen's another issue. He's grooming ex-Mormons. He's purposely causing your emotional traumas to come to the surface to control you, and you don't see it. You think, oh, he understands me. Yeah, he's also controlling you through that grooming process, which is usually for sexual predators. And yes, he has the accusation of sexually assaulting his co-worker and others. There's a whole website dedicated to all the victims of John Delen. It's really quite horrific. But regardless, you guys don't see it. I do, because I lived it. The church attacked me and have been attacking me. They've ordered and paid for my assassination because they're that concerned about the information I possess. And it began by deciphering Paleo-Hebrew. Went to the church, said, hey, I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Joseph Smith is a translator. Isn't that awesome? Nope, not awesome at all. Turns out they don't want to be translators, and so they are now saying Joseph Smith isn't a translator. And when it comes to the Book of Mormon, having done real church history, after my bishop tried to extort me to stop the research publications of Paleo-Hebrew, and I went on to expand that into deciphering Egyptian petroglyphs, because Paleo-Hebrew comes from Egyptian characters, and by deciphering the vocabulary, I went, wait a minute, these are characters. Egyptian petroglyphs have characters, the facsimiles, that's what I'm referring to with petroglyphs. And I'm now seeing scripture stories in the Egyptian petroglyphs when I already know about the stories in Egyptian that have multiple levels of meaning, and now I'm seeing those multiple levels of meaning and more in the Bible stories. But yeah, that scares the church. Why? Because if I'm a translator and they won't even acknowledge that the president of the church is a translator, because they never use it, prophet, seer, revelator, and president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Never translator. And of course, we all know now, and I'm making sure you know, Nelson is not a translator, as he had to go to Hebrew scholars to get the white supremacist definition of Israel. Let God prevail. No, that's wrong. And I've gone over that with you, what the actual meaning is. It refers to the latter-day Messiah according to the learning of the Jews, not Christians. And Nelson, of all people, should have known it, because he says, I've studied the gathering for decades, my whole life. I know all the scriptures. And so you then conclude with, let God prevail over all those non-whites? Oh, dear God. And so when it comes to the Book of Mormon, translation is also a touchy subject, because Paleo-Hebrew had to do with Joseph Smith's King Follett Discourse. I wasn't doing research on the Book of Mormon translation. We don't have plates. Do you understand? There can be no arguments, debates concerning the Book of Mormon because there's no plates. And yet Mormons will still do it. They have to. The church has to. Their whole thing depends on the historicity of the Book of Mormon. Not just as a historical document, but as history in the origin story of the church. And it just isn't. Which means there's a different story for the history of the church. That the Book of Mormon has another origin. And that's what the church is desperately trying to hide. And I realized yesterday with the second video I did on this subject that September 6th was attacked not because they found out that Joseph Smith was arrested on the 20th of March, 1826, which the church refuses to allow out there. It's not on Wikipedia. It's all over the internet. I've got the picture. You can get the picture and see it for yourself. It was from the court documents of the court where he was arrested. And it destroys the church too. This whole science and truth and evidence is destroying the church. It's just eating it up. And the church are getting desperate to make more and more and more money before the church has to close down forever, because the con is up. And so that's what you do when the con is about up, is that you steal as much as you can and run. Take the money and run. And that's exactly what the church is doing. That's why they're buying up land for temples, is because of destruction they know is coming, that they purposely helped pay for with your tithing to make happen. Because if they can get away with it, they don't have to take the money and run. They get to rise up from the ashes, your ashes, paid for with your tithing as Mormons, with their kingdom of God, and polygamy and all sorts of corruption and crime that are no longer corruption and crime because they're in charge. An authoritarian government cannot sustain itself because it causes a survival of the fittest among the people. And that's unpredictable. It's unstable. You don't know what people will do to survive. And you may think you're in position of authority and you've got your guards to protect you and you've got laws and police officers to punish the people who rise up, like Putin's done. But what do you do when you've killed them all? Who's going to get you your food? Who's going to make your clothing? Who's going to provide you with all the nice furnishings and possessions that you enjoy as the authoritarian leader? You're going to have to do the work. Because your guards, yeah, you got them so buffed up on steroids that one punch and you're dead. So you don't want to say, hey, you're no longer needed as my bodyguard, go work the fields. Yeah, no. Guess who's now king of the mountain? Mr. Steroids. And that's the whole point that the Lion King of Disney was trying to point out to us, is that authoritarians destroy their kingdom. Metallica, King Nothing. This is well established as the pattern for authoritarian governments. And isn't it great that America is turning authoritarian? It's all for the purpose of destroying it. And the church knows this. That's why they're doing what they're doing. And they're hoping the destruction happens before the jig is up. What does jig mean, anyway? I know Will Smith did a song, Let's Get Jiggy. But I don't know where the source of that is. But anyway. And so there's other problems that are attacking the church on this. Because Sidney Rigdon, author of the Book of Mormon, the major author of the Book of Mormon, except for the 116 pages. Now, as we read in section 3 and 10, the 116 pages were written. And therefore we know, because they use Nephites and Lamanites, that Sidney Rigdon had already written the original 116 pages. And so, who then wrote the 116-page replacements? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's what the church also doesn't want out, which is killing the church. With the internet and all of these different things that are coming out about the church is trying desperately to separate them and not link them to each other. Like Wikipedia has links to other things talked about in articles. And yet the church is trying very hard to separate the links apart from each other. And so Canandaigua, New York, not linked to Heber C. Kimball or William Morgan, which was yesterday's repeat information for you in the videos. but also that Smith Sr. was involved in the New Israelites. You can't find it on Joseph Smith Sr.'s Wikipedia page. And the church aren't publishing it in their saints volumes. Nope, not even touching it. You have to find out that he was even in the New Israelites, possibly because of Ethan Smith and the View of the Hebrews, lets you at least know that the Cowdreys were a part of Congregationalists, of which Nathan Wood came from and started his New Israelite Congregationalist church next door, in between the Cowdreys and the town of the Congregationalist church. But if you don't know to look for New Israelites in the Wikipedia page, you're not going to find out that Joseph Smith was considered a master rodsman, not junior, but senior. Master rodsman. And if you didn't know, Brigham Young had the Doctrine and Covenants changed so that Oliver Cowdery no longer had the rod of Aaron. He now has the gift of God. See, the church is covering up their past, covering up what they don't want you to know about, because when you put it all together, there's another story for the origin that the church doesn't want you to know. And it's not because they've been lying to you, as ex-Mormons believe, because that's what ex-Mormons are not doing. I don't understand why. Why am I the one having to do this for you guys? Do you not understand that I've lived my life wanting answers as a privileged white kid, rich in my family, only because my parents chose to have kids rather than be a couple, a couple without kids, to have lots of wealth. But the fact that I was able to still be privileged growing up with my siblings, yeah, my dad made a lot of money. But nonetheless, if somebody tells me I can't do something, or they refuse to tell me that the answer to the question I'm looking for, if they don't just give it to me as when I ask for it, I then go and get it and do it for myself. That's why I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Nobody else did. Joseph Smith said the Hebrew Bible was translated incorrectly. I want to know what the rest of the Hebrew Bible says. Don't tell me he's wrong or that it can't be done because traditional Hebrew translation is such and such. No. I want to know. If Joseph Smith is a fraud, I want to know. Turns out he's not a fraud. He was using Paleo-Hebrew. And likewise with the facsimile translation. I want to know, how did he translate it? I still remember asking my mom, how is this translated? What do these characters mean? Oh, that's higher knowledge for adults. Wrong answer, Mom. You raised me to be this rebellious little snot brain. And so, yes, as a result of being Mormon, born and raised in a privileged white home, I became the antagonist of the church. And so when we look at the York rites that Joseph Smith Sr. is involved with, which they've now put on his Wikipedia page, showing that he is a Master Mason with the date, but notice the church will not allow the citation to be put in. Oh my God. And they're not specifying which lodge it is, whether it was Scottish or York. See, that you need to know from Heber C. Kimball. Again, the church is purposely keeping all of these characters, events, dates, and places separated as best they can. Because to join them all together, boom, church is destroyed. Their jig is up, whatever the jig means. Should we look it up? Maybe I'm being racist. Maybe I should stop saying this word. Let's find out. It is bugging me. Jig. Definition. A lively dance. Oh, got it. So back in the 20s, dancing a jig. Yeah. A device that holds a piece of work and guides the tools operating it. Okay. So, that's most likely what the definition refers to. The jig is up. The device that is lying to us to cover up the real truth, it's been exposed. It's up. Okay, so we're good. It's not racist, bigoted, or sexist. It's a legitimate word. And so, yeah, it's York rights that he was involved with. Senior is involved with the New Israelites. Senior is involved with the York rights, with the Knights Templar, that had the whole Friday the 13th bloodline holy grail of the descendant of the Christ, which is David, not Jesus. Did you know that? King David is the Christ. Descendant of David, not descendant of Jesus. The Gospels even tells us Jesus, who did not exist, was a descendant of David through the adopted father, the stepdad. Not an actual dad. See, there are problems that expose that the jig is up for the Christian narrative. That there is no Jesus as well. And then you may think, well, we haven't found any archaeological evidence for King David either. Yeah, you're right, except not in Jerusalem, but it's over in Egypt. 18th dynasty, as I've been telling you. I saw a news article the other day claiming that King David has been found. And I go look on it. No, Jeremiah's king has been found. And then they threw in speculations. This may have been the well that Jeremiah was thrown into. First of all, you're not talking about David. You totally skipped him. You lured me in with David and gave me nothing in return. And then threw in speculation, which may or may not be true, but it doesn't matter. I don't care. We know Jeremiah was a legitimate historical figure because we have external evidence to support it, unlike Jesus and David, if you stay out of Egypt. And so Knights Templar also have gold Egyptian treasure plates, buried in caves, buried in the ground, buried in a well. I think it's Nova Scotia where the well is of the Knights Templar. Have to recheck, but it's in Canada on the East Coast. And so then when you take all that information that the church doesn't want you to listen to and forbids you from searching for, only read church-approved curriculum material. They don't want you to learn this stuff. They don't want you to study. They don't want you to research. They're church historians, now that they've gotten rid of the September 6th, and one of them's now dead. They're all conforming and compliant. They only research nothing anymore. It's a circular researching thing. You only have what the church curriculum materials say you're supposed to use, and you can only research within that. You can't go beyond. And now, as of yesterday, they're announcing we're going to turn the Hill Cumorah into the big lie that we've been perpetuating. And when we get to the plagiarism in the Book of Mormon, Sidney Rigdon being the author, the New Israelites, the York rites with the Knights Templar, and gold treasure plates in Egyptian, buried in the ground. You also have the plates description themselves. This is why we know that they weighed about 200 pounds, because gold has a certain weight to it. And when you say that they're gold plates, okay, well, what are the dimensions of the plates? And we're told by Joseph Smith that, the 6 by 8 and a certain depth, and therefore you can then do the math to find out how much they weighed. 200 pounds. And like I said, weight class was able to get to 200 pounds. I'm taller than Joseph Smith. And I can tell you, 200 pounds is still heavy. You have to properly manipulate your body to safely lift 200 pounds. You can't just bend over without bending your knees and pick them up with my long arms. It ain't gonna move. I have a pile of boxes in my room that I need to push up against the wall. It's too heavy for me, even though I know that if I push from the lower part, it's more likely to move. Nope, still too heavy. So it's now sitting there, unmoved, until either I convert my dolly cart from a cart into the dolly and then move it that way, or take off the boxes one at a time until I just have one to move and then put them back up there. So yes, the claims of Joseph running through the forest, bopping them on their head with the gold plates under his arms like a football, ain't happening. And yet they still say, oh, well, he was a farmer. And he was always winning in leg wrestling competitions. Doesn't matter. It's a whole different physics when you're carrying and running with 200 pounds of gold plates. And so, yeah, it's not true. None of it is true. And so then you have to ask yourself, okay, what is the truth? And ex-Mormons just say, nope, it's all a lie. It's just a figment of Joseph Smith's imagination. He read Captain Cook books, or Captain Kidd books, plagiarized, if you know that he plagiarized, and you've forgotten that Sidney Rigdon is the major author, that Joseph Smith is not a part of it. Do you understand that, ex-Mormons? Do you understand Joseph Smith did not write the Book of Mormon? He did not look in a hat. He did not translate. None of it. And so what happened? Are you not curious? Have you just thrown up your hands and said, it's all fraud, I don't want nothing to do with it? Don't you want to know what happened, rather than spreading the lies? Because there's a billion memes about Joseph and the plates, especially after the hat and the rock thing. And as funny as they can be, none of them are true. I've even made some myself. And if you know my video content, you know that it is purposely designed, not just a trashing on Joseph. And there are still people who to this day don't understand it. Sidney Rigdon is the author of the major portion of the Book of Mormon. We know this from science. The manner in which I speak to you is not your manner of speech. Not just the vocal tone from the vocal cords, but the actual placement of words and the words themselves into a grammatical structure for you. We are taught in grade school, in grammar class, that we have to conform and comply to the basic subject, verb, object. And we are forced into that pattern. But our society, once we get home, completely destroys it for us. Nope. That's great that you're getting A's in class, kid, but this is how we do things in the real world. And that's exactly right. Everyone has a different linguistic signature. Just like our fingerprints, just like our vocal cords, we have different signatures. Even our eyes have different signatures. And if you've gone to Hoop's Vision, they probably have given you the little eye chart that tells you what malady you have in your body if you've got a black line in a certain part of your eye, which is kind of cool. We can diagnose ourselves by looking in the mirror. Oh, I've got lung cancer. Uh-oh. And so this is why I've been doing my videos, is to help ex-Mormons know the truth, to stop spreading the lies. Because Joseph Smith was framed. Not just that his father put him in that position on purpose, which is why we don't know about the New Israelites. We don't know previously that he was a Master Mason, let alone a Freemason with the York Rites and the Knights Templar with Egyptian gold treasure plates. Because he knew there needed to be distancing to protect him and his family. Because of William Morgan and the information that he had obtained in the War of 1812, sorry. What he had learned was national security threat material. And he was having trouble finding someone to believe in him. He was able to get the Batavian Press to advance him for working on the book. But it took a lot of time, a lot of years. As Joseph Smith tells us, from 1823 to 1826. Yes, I know he got the plates in 1827. You're missing the point. 1826 was when William Morgan had to disappear. They were on to him. They were falsely arresting him to prevent him from publishing the book. And yet the Batavian Press published a book which doesn't show any threat by Masonry at all. So what was the book? Hint, hint. That William Morgan intended to write. Exactly. The first 116 pages written by Sidney Rigdon. Not the Solomon Spaulding manuscript yet. William Morgan's original book manuscripts. And Smith Sr. was with William Morgan as the Master Mason. That's what we read from the book attributed to William Morgan of what a duty of a Master Mason is. The clues are out there. The truth is out there. The X-Files are no longer X-Files. They have been explained. You just have to do the research. Though it will be cool to see Fox Mulder's polygamy series that is now in the process of being made. His version of Big Love. And so, yeah, that's the big con, that the church is scared to death of leaking before they can get the money and run. That's why Mormons are being played for suckers and losers. Literally. As Mormons get so violently angry to defend the lie, they don't want to learn the truth because the church tells them not to. And then ex-Mormons, though, that's where the struggle is. You guys should know better. Shame on you. So, yeah, that's what needs to be brought out, is these simple little things. Well, if Joseph Smith had rocks in a hat, why then did he have the Urim and Thummim? Notice they only have one rock that they're allowing us to know about. Yet, Wikipedia seer stones, there were multiple rocks. And none of those were the Urim and Thummim. Joseph Smith got a Urim and Thummim also, and the Urim and Thummim is what's missing. Really? Is it? And you'd think that the church would rewrite the history to show that Joseph Smith got to keep the Urim and Thummim. It's just the plates that he didn't get to keep. And then he still has the sword. Wasn't he the Nauvoo militia leader at one point in time after getting rid of... it wasn't Bennett. It was the other guy who betrayed him. Who was... was it Bennett? It might have been Bennett. Who was a medical doctor who was joining the Danites with the secret underground sex ring without Joseph's knowledge of, and told the women that, you know, as a medical doctor, he can provide them with abortion drugs so that they won't get pregnant or have the baby. And then he got excommunicated by Joseph Smith because he's doing all this. He got caught. And so he was upset that Joseph Smith excommunicated him and then accused Joseph of being that which he was worsely guilty of. So, anyway. But yeah, Joseph Smith had a sword. That must be the sword of Laban. So yeah, we've got the plates, the church history. That's where I found it. That was the first time I knew about the one rock. What is that doing there? Oh dear God. And it was funny because my wife at the time was telling the workers there that I translate Egyptian, and they were going, "Oh, okay." And I was telling them about how I was holding a lecture, and they said, "Oh yeah, give us the information and we'll pass it around." Yeah, no. But they were skeptical. I could see that they were skeptical, even though they were placating me. They didn't believe that Joseph Smith was a translator, working for the church in church history, now with the rock on display for all to see. It was a picture, but they had the brass plates, or not the brass plates, the 200-pound plates, gold plates, and they had to bring it up from the basement. And so you can practice lifting it to see how heavy they were, which defeats the purpose. If you're showing people that they're too heavy for Joseph, doesn't that destroy the whole message you're trying to get out by saying it was all real? So yeah, good times. But yeah, it's sad that Mormons know the truth, apparently. They just don't care. And that's scary. Because they're the dangerous Mormons. They're like your YouTube Mormon employees who know the truth and don't like it when I post my videos exposing the fraud of the church. It's a crime. They're scamming you out of money with fraudulent history. Do you not understand this? This is the whole basis upon which Gaddy versus COP is based. The church is lying about church history and is scamming members out of their money and altering their lives based upon the big lie. And I probably should check. I meant to check earlier this morning as I was reminded of it. I'm dreaming. Yeah, the latest update from June 9th. Notice of Supplemental Authority by Laura A. Gaddy, K. Birmingham. Supplement Williams v. Kingdom Hall. And then on the 11th, Friday, notice of non-opposition to motion to amend prayer for relief in proposed second amended complaint by corporation. The Re-95, which is not on here, motion to amend correct 85, motion for leave to file second amended complaint and memorandum in support of memorandum in support. Dear God, Kay, what the hell are you doing? You're following them down a rabbit hole. That's all they're doing here. They're taking her down a rabbit hole, and the judges, Robert Shelby, the chief judge of the federal court, is allowing this rabbit hole to continue. I mean, Kingdom Hall? Dear God. So Williams v. Kingdom Hall is the let's see, that's Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, what the hell are you guys going to Jehovah's Witnesses for? Is it because of an outcome that can apply here in this case? I mean, seriously? If a crime has been committed, that's all you need to point out. Don't go down this rabbit hole. But a Utah Supreme Court vacating lower court decision and remanding to district court for further proceedings. That was the final result of the Williams v. Kingdom Hall. It says it has to do with protecting young people and vulnerable groups. Okay. Let's find someone else that actually... here's the PDF of the filing. This is the appeal. Rhea Williams filed a lawsuit against Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, Roy, Utah, Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York, Incorporated. I saw that place. I drove by it often while on my 19-year-old mission, as I saw their tracks as they competed with us, and when they saw us they ran away, as my missionary companions would say, "Merry Christmas, Happy Easter," because they don't celebrate holidays. So let's find out what this is all about. List of all parties. Table of contents. Issue presented is page 4. Introduction. There's something in here. When petitioner Rhea Williams was 15 years old, 4 adult male elders in her Jehovah's Witness congregation, each a respondent here, played an audio recording of... Oh! I heard that in the news. That was in the news the other day. She's suing because she had been forced to listen to the rape in the court trial. Oh, so this is all tying in together here. Being raped in an effort to extract from her a confession that she had sex outside of marriage. Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses are messed up. You know, blaming the victim of rape because it's sex out of marriage. That's messed up. But the church does their own part of it as well. You know, you get raped, oh, you can't get an abortion. You have to have the baby and then adopt it out to good, worthy Mormon parents who will take care of the baby better than you would. Because we're not going to give you government relief. You're being a lazy moocher on the system. I just want to cry. So, yeah. Interesting stuff. But yeah, once you put the pieces of the church history puzzle together, you now understand why the church is so desperate to do anything they can, even murder, to silence the information.